Okay, we're back on air with Slaven Jovanovic, and he was not happy with his typing from World Oceanic Society and would like to see what the community, fine people of World Oceanic Society think about his type. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. I'm going to go ahead and do like I did last time, and at the end of the video ask you what it is that you disagreed with. But for now, we'll go ahead and get into the questions, okay?
Sure, no problem.
Okay. What types of people do you enjoy being around?
Well, I would say that I enjoy being around people who are mature, and by that I mean people who are respecting other people, who are, not enforcing their views on others and their way of behavior and their way of joking, and who are trying to understand other people and, let's say, bring some sort of compromises with them rather than imposing themselves on those people. Additionally, people who are interested in lots of, let's say, intellectual stuff, with the type of people that you can talk about lots of different topics, from the everyday events to, I don't know, new colonization of Mars, those kinds of things.
Okay, so you prefer to talk about the colonization of Mars than celebrities?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Okay, so what do you do?
Do you mean as a hobby or?
Let's start. Well, what do you do all day?
No, okay. So my day is not quite complicated one. It's mostly about forcing yourself to get up as soon as possible, and try to prepare yourself for college when it's a working day, and attend those classes that sometimes can be really tedious because it takes a lot of focus and sitting and listening to professors. And after that, I tend to take a nap. Before I was, taking 1 hour, but sometimes it would happen that I don't feel quite, refreshed after sleep. So I decide just to wake up whenever and then study. And additionally, I might at the end of the day check Facebook, play maybe some video games. And additionally, because I'm a science fiction fan, I maybe try to browse on the internet different science fiction pages, or even watch walkthroughs of video games on YouTube and those kind of things.
Okay, so what do you do for a career?
Well, currently I'm a student, and I plan to finish mechanical engineering college for industrial engineer. And I decided to choose that career because it's of multidisciplinary nature. It is quite worse job that has lots of possibilities for you to employ. It's not only focused on industry. You can work in both non-profit and profit organizations. You can work basically in hospitals, even in large, let's say, stores. You can even work in entertainment parks, Luna parks. I don't know how that is done in English. So basically, anywhere where some sort of either some sort of product or service is legally given to the other people.
So you plan to work in the service industry?
Yes, I think that's.
What service would you give?
Well, I would like to be maybe logistical support, to work in warehouses or storehouses, and to manipulate, the flow of materials, of goods, and sending them to their locations, and maybe even watch the economical, let's say, how would I say this, economical benefits of those actions, to minimize waste of energy, working hours, and money, and make better schedule of, equipment and stored goods and those kind of things.
Okay, so you want to control the flow of resource, and you want to be in control
Yes.
of systemizing. You're going to be in control of systems, minimizing waste.
Yes, of particularly system engineering. I'm interested in that. That is about designing huge and complex systems, like, I don't know, airplanes, and let's say some sort of big objects and, for example, generators, and maintaining them over time. That's system engineering, basically.
So what classes do you take?
Well, I tend to take, physics, mathematics. I mean, higher mathematics. You have 1, 2, 3. Then you have mechanics. That's part of classical physics. That's additional. Additional subject where we learn about. Currently, we're learning the statics, and statics is about gathering forces that is influencing the material body or dot, and basically making how would I say this, and determining the balance of the material dot or body that is, that some forces are acting upon. And it's quite interesting because you have to use your wits. Lots of these tasks in that subject, it's situational. For example, what would I don't know. Let's say you have this one body and you have the another one. You need to, let's say, form some sort of relationship between those bodies. For example, if this one does not move and this does not move as well, that's an absolute system of balance, for example. And you have lots of topics. I don't want to tire you up with those kind of things.
You can continue explaining it if you want.
Well,
so you're describing the statics of bodies interacting.
Yes, because that's the main subject of mechanics. To collect all this. I mean, to gather all these forces that are reacting on single dot and material body. And in classical physics, you have the unimmovable time, unimmovable space, and you have motion of the dot. And the dot is constantly in one place. And those laws are just, theoretical. In real life, you don't have, in realistic physical laws, you don't have that. But because the movement of bodies in classical physics or in mechanics is lower than the speed of the light, and the speed of the light breaks those laws, the Newton laws, then we can use those laws for all movements lesser than the speed of light. So yeah, that was.
So that's what you're currently learning right now?
Yeah.
How many classes are you taking?
Well, I have 6 by one semester, so I would say 12 in total during 1 year.
Okay. So do you do it like we do here in the United States, where you do your undergraduate first and then you go to your?
Yes, we have some sort of European system that is widely spread and that is mimicking your system. For getting the graduate engineer, you finish 3 years, then you get master degree after 2 years, and after that you get how it is said, how in USA you have your highest level of education, how it is said.
There's masters and PhD, doctorate.
Yeah, PhD. Yeah, you additionally go for 3 years for that. So that's totally 8 years of education if you go from the lowest to the highest level.
Okay. So what level are you at now? How long have you been going to school?
Well, I'm the first year currently, and I'm planning just to get a degree for industrial engineer. And after that, I will go to industry to get some experience in work. And after that, I'm going to do the master degree, and later, so I could do scientific work, I will take PhD. I don't know if I said it pronounced accurately. PhD, right? Mm-hmm. That's yeah. So I'm planning to take that in order to perform a scientific work of some sort.
Okay, you haven't decided what career you want yet, right? But you've decided you want to keep your options open in a way.
Yes, and that's why I'm taking this direction, because it's the most flexible branch of engineering currently available to me in my college. I might even reclassify myself as an aerospace engineer, because I like spacecrafts and planes and all those kind of things, and I would really like to develop and improve those if I could have.
Okay. If you can work with engineering, technology or whatever. I don't know how you call that.
Aerospace, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. Okay, so you would do that. So okay. What topics make you bored? What do you not like?
Well, I like when people, for example, constantly telling me about the similar issues over and over again and doing nothing to resolve them, when they don't ask the practical advice from you to help them, but rather they just want to rant about things. I like that, particularly when they just talk about constant similar situations happening over and over again and nothing new is happening. Then I don't know how can I help, because I can only give practical advice, or I can involve in that interpersonal relationship issues if that person wants me to. I will never do that by myself, only if that other person permits me to for myself to interfere in their personal relationships with other people when they have arguments or those kind of things.
So you do find yourself interfering sometimes?
Yes, when other people ask me to, or when I see that situation has escalated above something that is normal, I would say.
What do you do in those situations?
Well, I tend to break conflict. I might even, for example, if somebody attacks someone physically, I might even react and defend that person. But mostly I prefer most those kind of conflicts happen, verbal conflicts, when somebody would attack that person, accuse that person of something that person has not done, and I get really annoyed with that sort of injustice. So I tend to, like some sort of savior, and like an advocate of that person, tend to defend that person with my arguments and telling that person is innocent. It has nothing to do with that, those kind of things.
Okay, so you're not going to use really force. You're going to try to manipulate the situation and bring the energy levels down.
Yes, I would say. First by some sort of reasoning and compromise, and using force only when necessary, when absolutely necessary.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the legal system?
Do you mean something specific about it, or in general? My general opinion about that.
Well, what is your attitude toward the legal system?
Well, I would say that it is important to maintain civilization, because the people in conditions they are today, and with their character, they're not competent enough to not have some sort of structure. But I think the legal system is sometimes being really unjustful, because it has some inflexible laws. And what additionally has attracted my attention lately was double standard laws. Particularly, I'm irritated that in USA, I don't know how it is in my country, because it's kind of more patriarchal, more traditional in that sense. But there's lots of emphasis on modernization. But in your country, for example, I'm annoyed that when, for example, husband and wife get divorced, wife always gets 50% of the man's, of the overall possessions, even if it is not proven that she has taken part of taking that possession. I think that if she has taken part in creating that estate, that possession, that she should take only what she has put her effort into it, Or, for example, in many cases, fathers will not get legislations for children, and more, in many cases, mothers will, even if father is more, let's say, mentally and physically competent than mother. So basically, some sort of double standards based on some sort of patriarchal stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly telling, for example, that male is most likely psychopath, while women cannot never be psychopath. Mostly those kind of prejudice.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, this is off topic, but what I've seen recently is that there is a bit more fairness in the most recent years. And also, when people get married, they agree upon the terms of divorce when they marry.
Yeah, that's some sort of alternative to not get into those issues they tend. But and also, it is said that, for example, feminists in your country are a really strong movement, and they say that like the women are mostly, victims of rape, while actually one girl on YouTube said that males are actually victims of rape, that many males in jails are raped, so
that's a reality.
And that makes males the most strongest victims of rape by numbers compared to women. In your state, at least.
Well, just so you know, most people don't take feminists seriously.
That's good, because based on some MBTI group I was, they post lots of feminist posts, and I think that people have taken them seriously, because there are some of those social justice warriors who are telling, that's rude. How can you tell that? And those kind of things.
The new terms are gender equality, and generally, like in the past couple of years, I've seen feminists get attacked for basically being sexist.
Yeah.
The extreme feminists are extremely sexist, and they're not about equality. They're about revenge or whatever they are about. I don't even know. I don't really care what they're about, to be honest. But yeah.
So they don't have such a strong influence as they present themselves.
They at one point they did have a very strong influence, and I think at that point it was needed, because there was a time when the father would get everything and the woman would get nothing, or the father would get everything and then the woman would take the children and they would have nothing. But at this point, it's different, depending on the states and whoever the judge is, but. There is a little bit more equality, and feminists get laughed at and made fun of a lot. What I mean to say is there's a movement now of anti-feminism, which that's off topic. We should get back on topic.
Yeah. I agree.
But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Okay. Oh yeah. Do you like sports?
Yes, I like a specific. Versions of sports, for example, just like I mentioned, some team sports like volleyball, basketball. I even like baseball, but unfortunately that's USA sports. Sport people don't play here. That they play more European and some more widely world spreaded kind of sports. But it's interesting game for me. It's dynamic, and it's lots of you need to have a precision when you strike a bat and. When you need to run, and that's kind of interesting sport to me. And also because it's complicated, it is forcing me to learn it, to learn the rules and to figure out how sports work. I like when sports or any activities are too simplistic, then you just easily get bored. And also,
what kind of sports?
Well, let's say, that's not a sport. That's a variation of tennis. For example, when people they approach this big wall, they take tennis and a ball, and they just strike it on the wall and repeat it again, Or for example, running, it's a simplistic sport, you just run and you have to be the fastest and that's it, So it's kind of, it does not stimulate my curiosity, and thus I tend to lose my desire to compete in those kind of sports.
Okay, so do you play sports?
Occasionally. I wish I could play them more.
Which sports have you played?
I played basketball. I played soccer as a goalkeeper. I was never good at using my legs in ball movements, but I'm quite good at using my hands in sports, and that's the reason why I prefer basketball over soccer. That is the most popular sport and the most played sport in Europe.
Okay. So tell me before what you were saying about your affinity with force, what your abilities are when it comes to matching other opponents, when it comes to using force.
Do you mean in a sport or generally in life situations or?
Well, basketball.
Okay.
I think we were talking about basketball.
Okay. So basically, I would say that I use wits rather than strength, and also I like to develop technique. Because I see technique as some sort of fundamentals that no matter how physical predispositions you have, whether you're natural athletic or not, you can always master those and use them as weapons against more athletic and more endurable opponents. And also like to plan lots of, let's say, tricks with ball and lots of movement. I like to move a lot on basketball court to open myself for a shot or for some sort of drive toward basket and all those kind of things. I also like to do lots of circus shots. That's something I like to do. Many people tell me I goof off too much when I do those, but I like to do those. Particularly, I steal those moves from Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and those kind of NBA superstars of the past. I'm quite fascinated how they have, they have their own game, they have their own style, and they don't care, and they're effective on the court. And for me, it is more important that the game is enjoyable rather than I win. I cared before about winning, but now I care about having that every point that I get is unique, and it's not something that is monotonous and boring and etc. Basically, I see basketball as an art, as some sort of art rather than just sport, where you can develop your style of expression and how you want to play the game.
Okay, thank you. Explain your the way you approach relationships with other people.
Well, I would say that at first I'm distant from other people, but the good thing is when I want to approach someone, I'm enthusiastic, and that is not, that fake enthusiasm that you can see in some people that are quite good emotional and social manipulators. It is rather sincere, enthusiasm that I want to acquaintance myself with that person and want to form some sort of communication. And just like I previously said, I cannot just spontaneously, for example, on concert or some more spontaneous surroundings, I cannot just hang out with people and then form some relationships. There has to be something of a more formal nature, like, I don't know, on basketball field, on college, in library, or maybe in some organization that we have similar interests with, like now in VSS at Cianex, I'm forming some relationship with people over internet because we have similar interests, that's Cianex. So that's how basically I tend to do. I tend to talk about that similar topic we're interested in or we're engaged, and after that, some sort of personal relationships might happen. But I'm not quite good at, let's say, being dominant one who will form that relationship. I expect that if I put some sort of effort, that other person needs to respond. If it doesn't, then I'm not able to form some, how would I say, to interest that person more to form some sort of deeper relationship.
Okay, so what does it mean to have relationships? What does that mean? Like, what is the purpose?
Well, when I was talking about now, I was talking about friendships mostly, but I think that the main reason for that is that I think that's, I guess, basic necessity in humans to have other people around and to satisfy their emotional and social needs. Particularly, I need somebody who I can trust and who I can tell my issues, my dilemmas, share inner part of myself. And of course, the other person can do that as well, that other person can tell the same things. But basically, I form bonds with other people by, sharing my troubles, sharing my opinions, my beliefs, and the same thing I expect from other people. And that's how we form both through mutual joy and through mutual sorrow, sharing the life together, that kind of philosophy.
Right, yes. Okay. I don't really like this questionnaire as much as I like the other one, but.
And what is the other one? Question?
The one we did previously.
Yeah.
Okay, so how important is social status to you?
I would say not so much. I only want to gain certain respect from other people, to not be mocked or publicly disrespected from other people. But other than that, to be just, some alpha male or something like that, I'm not interested in that. I want to be independent and strong individual who is competent of handling himself, and helping others if he's able to. But to be some sort of a popular person, I just don't care about that. I just want to be acknowledged for my work and for my help in practical and productive kind of way, rather than doing that because I have good friends on strong places or I know how to charm other people and etc. Mostly because I gives people something useful, and that's how I pursue social status. That's what I want to say.
Okay, so you said you charm other people.
No. I said that I don't want to gain social status based on charming other people. I want to gain their support, their respect by doing something useful to them.
Okay.
Being people who respected them and person who helped them.
Okay, so it's more of a business exchange.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so do you like theory beyond where it applies to you?
I would say that it depends. For example, I like when people speculate about ideas. That's sometimes entertaining. But if people are constantly talking about what needs to be done, what could be done, but they don't do anything to actually do something, then I get bored. I actually have to see that. I actually like to see theory in practice because that's how I evaluate its potential. In reality, I would say.
Okay, so your reason for thinking about novel ideas ties back into your need to be engaged in a realistic task.
Yes, to improve conditions in the real world, I would say.
Okay. Okay. Man, these questions aren't that good.
One critique I would give to those questions are that they are too general. And somebody who's not good at brainstorming in the moment can easily get stuck and cannot know what he talks about, particularly since this interview demands that you have to be spontaneous and do not think in advance what you're going to tell and those kind of things.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to just keep talking and talking and talking. But yeah, so actually they would say that these questions aren't actually general enough. Because it gives you too many hints at what to talk about. And
yes.
Yeah. So it's like saying, how often do you shower? It's like, well, you just told them to talk about showering, so now you can't separate, how natural it is for them to talk about those things.
Yes. Maybe they should do a periodical change of questions, when you pass exams in school. You never have the same exam if you repeat a class.
So yeah, I mean, they do that sometimes, I think.
But not too often. These questions are quite old now. I think they're old 2 years or more. I don't know.
Well, nobody uses them because they suck. Nobody uses these ones. The ones Jack uses and Rowan uses are much better. But okay. Let's do a couple more questions and then we'll talk about your disagreement with the typing.
Sure.
Okay, so how do you go about planning?
Well, I would say that I cannot perform any task if I don't plan it, at least if I don't have a picture in my head that how would I do that. I sometimes try to experiment how it would look like if I wouldn't plan anything and just do something. But I totally how would I say this? I totally get lost if I don't have some plan, if I don't have some direction. I see plan a sort of direction. For example, go here, take this, do this. I don't see that like a holy letter or something. You have to do it every single time like this, and go it by this sequence or something like that. Just like direction. Just like in, let's say, strategy games, you have where you order those people, peasants or workers, what to build, what to do. So that's what's planned for me, what I need to do, where I need to go, and basically like some sort of guideline rather than some strict dogmatic, like some holy letter or something that I need to live by, and if I pass it, that I fail. So just like I said, only guidelines. I see plan as guideline through my life, through my daily activities and interests.
Okay, but you don't necessarily like improvisation, right? I mean, you prefer to have a goal in mind when you set out to do something.
Well, I would say that generally in some situations where I need to use tools, for example, when the job is of a highly practical nature, I'm not quite good at improvising. But for example, when somebody's telling me when he's finding himself in some sort of dilemma, for example, when I have to go out with my friends and they're, for example, trying to decide where to go and to not spend too much money and to feed themselves well, for that money. And I'm good at telling them what pays off. For example, here you're going to have more nutritious sandwiches and you'll spare that kind of money. So I'm good at improvising in those kind of situations. But for example, if I need to repair a bike, I cannot quickly improvise and figure out how the system of bike works and how the mechanisms of it works and parts and all. I would need some time, and definitely I would need some sort of manuscript to do it. I'm not one of those people who are able to just go there, use tools, figure out in a moment how they're going to fix something. I need some sort of, let's say, time to, or some sort of manuscript to handle those more practical improvisation tasks.
So you can improv solutions when it is a simple solution, but you can't really improv
when it's highly
technical.
complex. Yes, when it's of a practical nature. For example, when you have to do something by yourself, I would say technical solutions of really practical nature, like repairs and those kind of things. But I can repair stuff, but I'm not so quick compared to some people who naturally are able to, take some part and, figure out how system works, and they reproduce the positions of those parts and they fix the stuff. I just cannot do that. I would need, to deconstruct the part, then to make some sort of mental image how they fit together, and then slowly piece them together.
So you understand the big picture, but you don't necessarily understand how all the parts work together on a small scale?
Yes, that's exactly.
Okay. All right. So, do you become frustrated when your plans are changed?
Yes. Sometimes, for example, I planned that, I like to finish all my chores in the beginning of the day, and then my mother calls me, we have to go shopping. And then I get annoyed because of that, because I said, no, I wanted to do these chores first so I could get, relieved once I do them. Because when I say chores, I think things that I need to do, or either because I set them by myself, or I have them as a duty put by some other authorities. And I just want to get rid of them as soon as possible, and then we can do whatever that our person wants. But if they interrupt me when I have to do difficult tasks that are really tedious, but I care about them, I want to get for them to get done, then I get really annoyed.
So it takes a lot of focus for you to do these things, and you prefer to get them out of the way.
Yes.
What types of tasks are we talking about?
Let's say, I don't know, studying, because it takes a lot of concentration, not because lectures and topic is boring, but because it's draining for me to sit so long, because since my professor, they go really fast and there's lots of new informations coming by each lecture. I naturally do not prefer to get so many informations immediately. So for somebody who gradually learns about things, in systematic sense, it's hard when lots of info is when I'm bombarded by lots of info, and then I'm forcing myself to study a lot, because you need a lot of time to actually learn those new info, because if you don't learn them, they will give you more info. And how can you learn about that new info if you haven't studied of the previous info that was given to you? So essentially, I hate those statical jobs like studying, and sometimes even I have garden, outside of my house, and I hate, for example, doing physical work connected to maintaining and decorating garden. So those stuff that can be quite tedious, repetitive, like taking the tool that you grab leaves with, and
the rake.
Yeah, the rake, and those tasks.
So you hate doing repetitive work with your hands?
Yes.
Why? It makes you bored?
Yes. It's in beginning it's great, because you like every job that takes away your energy. I like physical form of job to it strengthens your body, and you feel somehow that you're doing something useful in your surroundings. You're after all cleaning all those leaves. You're making your surrounding more cleaner, more beautiful. And I would say that yes, because I cannot be too much in immediate reality. I tend to get pulled out in my mind to think about things, to contemplate. So it's hard for me to do physical labor, because physical labor and studying as well, you have to be in a moment, focused all the time while you're doing stuff. And my mind is pulling me in my head to think about things, to fantasize or to calculate things or whatever.
So what is it that you're generally thinking about when your mind wanders off?
I would say maybe about the past, about some general issues, about some dilemmas in life, about some negative experience I had in the past, and I'm like making some sort of sub scenarios. How could I fix those bad experiences in the past if I have done something else otherwise? You know, like some what if scenarios. So no, that's about it.
Okay, so when you're doing yard work, you're doing repetitive tasks, you prefer to, because it's boring, you would like to think about other things and brainstorm.
No, it's just like my mind is pulling me. You know, I need to have really strong focus on present moment to actually stay in the present moment. You know, my mind is constantly like somebody. Imagine the situation like somebody takes you and drags you somewhere. You know, and the same thing happens with my intent. I mean, with my focus. I am in a reality, observe reality, but you know, my mind, my thoughts, ideas, pictures are pulling me in my head to think about things and to sometimes daydream when I do nothing productive.
Okay, so your mind is
Drifting away.
your mind is drifting away. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I forgot what I was going to say. So organization, how organized are you?
I would say I'm good at organizing. Just like I said, I tend to organize my space. You know, I don't like clutter and messy things. I immediately get the desire to form some sort of structural setup of those things. For example, um, when I need to put my books, I like to put them on shelves and to, you know, make them neat and organized. Like I imagine, you know, when I do sometimes those tedious tasks, I imagine like I'm in some, let's say, fantasy world, and I imagine like I'm a librarian or something like that. And I need to sort all books, and that motivates me to do those chores. And or for example, when I need to, I don't know. This is unrelated from the topic. For example, when I go to gym and I have to work out, and I imagine I'm Roman legionnaire, and I have to, you know, do this workout so I could defend the Roman Empire from barbarians. Lots of these scenarios, you know.
Because you have a really strong mental world, basically.
Yes.
And it takes quite a bit of your energy to keep yourself remaining in the present moment.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right. So to compromise with your mind at the present moment, you'll allow yourself to actually drift off and think about other things while you're working.
Yes, so they could motivate me, so they can inspire me to stay in the moment.
Okay, so you can generate inspiration in yourself to keep yourself moving.
Yes, exactly.
Is it hard for you, or is it something that's not hard for you?
I would say it's hard in the beginning, but once my mind tends to get focused, it's just a matter of time of, you know, maintaining that focus, I would say. In the beginning, it's really hard, you know, because how would I say, I tend to be pulled out of my natural condition, and then when I'm into reality, that that mental world tends to get like it's tends to get shut down, and it only gives me some possibilities or ideas what to do in reality. You know, it is serving purpose for me to stay in a moment, I would say.
Okay. I think there may have been one or two more questions, but I've been skipping through them, so I don't know where we are. Okay, so you said you like sci-fi. Do you read?
Yes.
Okay.
For example, I have this book. Let me show you. This is this is on my native language, but you know, it's basically this. It is sort of Sanchara by Terry Brooks, and this is the author here of the book. You know, this guy here, and I like it because it's similar to Lord of the Rings, but it's more of an adventurous kind of way. It's like a combination of Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, and I would say that I like that first part of Lord of the Rings where they were mostly traveling, you know, and I like more Lord of the Rings than Hobbits because you have more action, you know, in sense of they're constantly traveling, they're trying to reach the Mordor to so Frodo could throw the ring. While Hobbit is more static, you know, it's only a few locations. There is some traveling, but you know, not so much dynamic, not so much novelty in it. not so many locations and events and new characters and plots and etc.
So you like it when the setting changes, that way you're, more mentally stimulated?
Yes, that's the main reason why Lord of the Rings is my favorite movie, just because it's the only movie that I've encountered that far that has changed so many settings and scenes. And
okay, so you're reading that book currently. Do you have any other books that you're reading?
well, I was reading Lord of the Rings trilogy. I was reading also from J.R. Tolkien, Silmarillion. I wanted to have a chronological background of everything, because he literally created, like, let's say, entire world, entire fictional world that has its beginning, that has its end. He has started from the first gods and how the species was created. And I wanted to have that entire picture of how that Middle Earth developed and how it reached that phase of that Frodo has to throw a ring. So I'm not only interested in just how Frodo has to throw a ring, I'm interested in how everything led to that moment. So I would say, like, some sort of sequence of events that Frodo is a ring bearer, and he has to do that to destroy Sauron and evil forces in the Middle Earth.
Okay. So you're interested in the sequence of events?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good answer. So I guess we're done. So what is it with the LIE type that you disagreed with?
Just like I said, I have these 2 pointers, and that is, I would say, SE polar, because it is stereotypically described that because this type tends to get in his mind too much. He does not.
SE polar or SI polar?
SE polar, the introvert sensing one. Yeah, that one. Basically, they said that this type totally neglect. It is totally messy. It has stuff all around it. Stereotypically, that's how it's described, because he's constantly paying attention to his productivity and to his mental world, and he just don't want to pay attention to those things. While I might be in my mental world, but until I cleanse the clutter, I cannot devote myself to my activities and duties. If I don't have working conditions to actually perform a job, I won't perform it until I met some sort of basic working conditions. And maybe additionally, extra-rendition, demonstrative, I would say, the way how I interpreted that function, on that position, is basically that logical intuitive extroverts are equally good, like intuitive logical extroverts are coming up with ideas, because I've read Jack's model where he says that first and 8 functions are your strongest functions, or the functions you're most confident at, so you can equally use them. And intuitive logical expert as well has extra intuition as that outer ring of first and 8 function.
So basically what you're saying is that the demonstrative NE is something that you don't feel that you're as confident with as is expressed by other people.
Yes, I would say that I rather pursue people who are good with coming up with ideas, because I'm not good with coming up with ideas so well, I would say, based on how extra-rendition is described in logical intuitive expert profile.
What types of ideas? Like, what is it that you see? What are the types of things that you seek out advice for when it comes to innovative ideas?
Well, let's say I would say I have issues with being original, in sense of most of my ideas are rather works of other people that I tend to reform to be somewhat different. So I am obsessed with finding something that nobody invented before, so I could do that, so I could be original owner of some invention.
You're obsessed with finding original ideas, or
yes,
original solutions, or recreating a system that was already made and making it.
I would say that I'm good at recreating the system that was already made and improving it, but I'm not good with coming up with absolutely original ideas. That is something that is my own creation, something like that.
So do you aspire to be a person who can come up with their original ideas?
Yes. For example, Nikola Tesla, for example, he is typed in as intuitive logical expert on 16 types info. I don't know how VSS typed him, but he would fit that description, because he was literally pulling out of his head all these ideas about two direction electric power, then first hydrocentrale in Niagara waterfalls in America or Canada. I don't know where exactly that is. And all those, he had all those ideas. He basically wanted to develop a Wi-Fi electric car. So you can imagine how advanced he was for the beginning of 20th century. Now we have Wi-Fi internet, and before he wanted to have Wi-Fi electric car. That's something that is totally absurd to me. How can somebody come up with such things like that in those periods?
Well, I mean, it hasn't happened yet, so maybe it was a bad idea.
Or maybe some people on power don't want to use that because the people would have free electric power and they would have less money in their pocket. So.
Or maybe it wouldn't be free. I don't know. Because Wi-Fi, like internet Wi-Fi is not free.
How do you mean?
I mean, it's not free. Like, you still have to pay for Wi-Fi.
Yes, but what he meant is I wanted to say the principle of actually, I want to say wireless electric power. That was his intention. But he wanted that electrical power to be free for everyone, because because people would use alternative energy sources, renewable energy sources to produce it.
Okay, so his idea was for it to actually be free and. All right,
yeah. So yes.
Okay. So, what other types have you thought of for yourself?
Well, I was considering maybe logical intuitive introvert because I was communicating with some people in Delta chat, and one guy said it. I don't want to pronounce people in public, to call them out, but basically he said that I'm TE valuer, not introvert feeling valuer, and that FE valuer, he said he has his own, for example, belief, and he will only tell you about his belief. He will not be so explanatory about him. And he said that extrovert feeling types or people who value extrovert ethics tend to convince you and give argumentations, etc., because they use introvert thinking. Introvert thinking is more about argumentations and logical reasoning than extrovert thinking by that person's view. But so far, many people have told me I'm extrovert thinking ego, so I tend to agree more with those people than with that person, because that person has kind of radical way of typing people and viewing information elements, and it's not quite reliable, as at least that's other people have said.
Okay, well, because of the first video we did, I can't really remember what I should ask you now, based on the other ones. I think we covered most of it, but we can go ahead and end this recording now, and I can place it in World Socionic Society. So I'm going to stop the broadcasting, and we'll talk afterwards.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye, guys.